Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is the Passion of the Nerd hangout and discussion of the Buffy episode 2 to go, which Lani the Great and I just watched in Chipperish together. No, that's not. I wordsed my face wrong. We did the rewatch. Gosh, it was almost the first time an intro didn't suck. This is the $5 and up tier discussion of the episodes. We've been doing this for a number of years. In 2 weeks, we'll be talking about Angel. I forget the name of it. New World, I think it is a New World. So if you'd like to join in, there's a link down below. You can do it through the YouTube membership option or Patreon, whatever your pleasure. The most common question we get are you ever going to make any more videos? The answer is yes. I'm working on a big project right now that is consuming all my time. And once that is done, and yes, that is something I will share with everyone, I'll be getting back to videos hopefully in January. And Lani and I are also hoping to put out some more work together, including maybe perchance, starting with the very first episode of Buffy and doing a whole podcast together, episode by episode, which we have never done, which will be her third time through. But hey, it is that's what we're here for. Anyway, I think that's everything. It's just me today. It has been a little while. Lani is in chat, monitoring, so please be kind, everyone. And I think that's all I've got. We're going to start with Tom and go to Lady Eternal. Tom.
Ian,
Hello, and welcome
how
to
you
the
doing?
Buffy discussion.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm well. I'm doing well, considering.
Yeah, yeah. That's always everything needs an asterisk. It's funny.
Yeah,
I've been chatting with. My job is there's 30 people on my team for my day job. Um, but we all work in different buildings across the city, and so we have to chat with each other. It's a very solo job, but
yeah.
everyone is sort of dazed and tired and out of it. Man, I
hmm
cannot focus. I can't. It's like, yeah, there's an epidemic of mental exhaustion. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk
Yeah.
about an alcoholic metaphor, magical metaphor with murder, and boy. All right. Tell me about two to go.
Well, this is um the best surprise ending of any
It's so good.
Buffyverse because and it was and the only reason it was a surprise ending was because um Anthony Stewart Head um, and I assume his agent allowed them not to put him in the guest star list at the beginning because he had a line before the show was done, before the episode was done.
Yeah,
So if you have a line in the show, you got to be in the guest
yeah. Credits are a
list
big deal.
credits. Yeah, um, and so this one just outdoes Drusilla's surprise appearance, which they were able to in Angel season 2, where they were able to not do because she didn't have any lines. She just came in and bit Drusilla, bit Darla. So
Yeah, it's an interesting season then of that's the second instance I can think of a trick being done with the credits.
yeah,
The other one being Amber Benson in
oh
Seeing
yeah,
Red. I think I like this one a lot better.
oh yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, the show has a. I was talking during the rewatch. Lani and I were talking about there are certain sort of defining memorable moments from the show, and that moment
Hmm.
is definitely one of them for me.
Yeah.
You know, there are I think of Buffy grabbing the sword, no friends, no family, no hope. Take all that away
Yeah.
and what's left? Me. You know, those sort of stand up and clap moments in the show that I don't know if they're emotionally unique, but the show does them so emotionally unique to Buffy. I'm sure I've
Yeah.
experienced that in other shows, but there's that stand up and clap feeling is something it does so often over and over again.
Yeah.
Um, Really amazing.
Um, I didn't get a chance to rewatch it because I was working today,
Man,
but
how dare you?
but I do remember. I've seen it, several
Oh yeah, of course.
dozen times.
You and I
So
could reenact scenes together, I'm sure.
um, I'm probably, again, I say this, I'm probably the only person who really enjoys Jonathan and Andrew.
I Well, I don't think that's true. I think by this point, I think once you chop away, you chop the head off the snake. I think I think they become more interesting and more enjoyable. Especially this is Jonathan's redemption episode, this and the next one, and uh, I think that's fun. You know, Lani and I both. I'm not. I don't mean to speak for everybody. I think some
Yeah,
people find them exhausting as this season sort of drones on. I am not one of them, but I think at this point is when people tend to enjoy the ride of those two a little bit more.
yeah.
But maybe
I think
I'm.
Jonathan's redemption started with Smash His Orbs. His orbs, Smash His
Yeah,
Orbs.
yeah. Smashes
Yeah.
orbs.
Um,
Well, I mean, once he's the first one to wake up. And Andrew
yeah,
doesn't until next season. But that moment where Katrina says what she says,
yeah,
and they are in shock as the nerd fantasy of the moment vanishes from their eyes. I think that's the moment that begins for Jonathan of
yeah.
who are we and what are
Yeah.
we doing?
But that the Smash
But
His
the
Orbs was the first actual
action, yeah,
action that he
first
made
act
that
of
said that
redemption.
told you, okay, he's he's redeemable.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I agree with you.
but I mean I've been a science fiction nerd since for 50 years, and so all their you know fanish babble and such
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
always enjoyable to me.
The
I
Connery
mean,
argument.
yeah, the Connery or the and when Andrew's talking about he finishes and none of you has the midichlorians to stop her.
Yeah,
That's like
yeah. It smacks to me because you know that this writing team writes from personal experience. It
oh
smacks to
God,
me of
yes, God,
conversations
yes.
that they just transcribed from the writers'
It's
room.
most of them are, I believe, were probably about my age when it first mid to late 30s, early 40s.
Kiwi Shapiro says in chat, Anthony Stewart Head does get a special guest star credit, but it's not till the closing credits after
Exactly,
Joss and Lani.
exactly,
Yeah, it's not in the intro, so it didn't spoil the surprise.
exactly.
Yeah,
That was the but he if normally he would have since he had a line, it would have had to have been in the opening credits.
yeah, yeah.
In the post opening credits, special guest star, blah blah blah. But
The other
anyway,
thing, the other
uh,
thing that's interesting to me is Buffy kind of notoriously has reused guest stars for different roles, and not
yeah,
minor roles. Sort of Kralik was a pretty memorable
yeah,
bad guy. I never met Rad. What's the name of the drug dealer?
rack.
Rack dies in this episode. Any feelings about? Well, we assume he's dead.
Yeah.
Any feelings about the rack inclusion?
Um. Oh, I've Jeff Kober is amazing. He just and Rack is he's really creepy, but he's got that kind of creepy charisma
Yes.
because Jeff Kober has that
Yeah.
charisma that you can just like and just it's
Tom, don't take this the wrong way, but you seem like the type. Have you seen Timeless? No, haven't
no.
haven't seen Timeless. Okay.
Is it a movie?
It is a 2-season show. It
Oh,
is Magic School Bus meets Quantum Leap. Would be the way I would describe it. It's
okay,
from showrunner Eric Kripke. Uh,
okay, okay.
and it is Lani and I are watching it. We're really enjoying it. It is a ton of fun and maybe the dumbest time travel show I've ever watched. Somehow,
What's it on?
I think it's on NBC. Um,
Oh,
but you
okay.
might enjoy it. You seem like it seems like it may also be up your alley. I say dumbest time travel shows. Just as an example. So the basic premise: tech billionaire invents a time machine. Terrorists steal it. A woman who is a historian gets grabbed by the CIA to be a part of a team that needs to go back in time and correct the things that the terrorist is doing wrong. So, Quantum Leap, Magic School Bus. However,
Gotcha.
the thing they never ever justify is the second the terrorist takes the time machine back, you can't chase him. Everything is different immediately. It's the past. And they make no attempt to explain it. And then very often they show up at the site. They take the time travel back and they're like, the Hindenburg is going to explode in an hour. We've got to get there. You have a time machine. Why didn't you go back the day before instead of an hour before? Anyway, I'm not doing the show. That
Yeah.
said,
Okay.
I said during the rewatch that Lani and I, of course, are always looking for the Buffy cast in other shows, and this
Yeah.
show has a Spike, and it has a Riley that we're like, oh, this is what Riley should have been on Buffy. This is a good Riley. The relationships are really great. And some of the science fiction is fun. So just a recommendation for you specifically.
Okay.
Um, and if you do watch it, just understand the first season is a little dry and Magic School Busy, but then they
Okay.
sort of uh, 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 another one it kind of reminds me of is the way Dollhouse reinvents itself in a particular season. I don't know
Okay.
if you watched Dollhouse, but one of
Oh
the
yeah.
seasons
Yeah.
is not like the other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Second season we kind of ramped up.
yeah,
It was like first season established the world, it was world building, and the second season just
yeah,
it
uh,
it, it makes you kind of sad that they what they could have done if they had more time, you know.
yeah. Timeless does a similar thing at the end of the first season. The second season, Lonnie and I are really enjoying. I think you might enjoy it. So, just a
Okay.
recommendation. Anyway, I didn't mean to completely, or
That's
maybe
okay.
I did, derail the discussion of Buffy into a show that had nothing to do with this. But there you go. Is there anything else you want to say about Two to Go?
Um, I I forever am a Xander defender,
Yep, sure.
and
He's enjoyable in this
the
one.
yeah the scene between him and Anya, and she's talking about one thing and he's talking about another, and then and just his I saw the gun, I couldn't
Yeah,
move,
yeah,
his
yeah.
he's
It's
this
a
guilt he's carrying on him that's not his fault. There's no reason for him to feel guilty about this, and
I I I
it just always gets to me.
I don't know if I'm a Xander defender. I think that I have been even-handed about him over the years. I think I hope that the Restless video I did, the spoiler version, includes a bit on seeing red that I talk about in that episode.
Hmm.
I think that there are certain things that the writing mishandled with Xander in that it co-signed some stuff that was of that time and place, and now we hope we know better. Um, but I maintain that the reason why I ever am frustrated with Xander is how often he reminds me of myself. And as an example, I've only been married for, I think we've been married for 3 years. Uh, but it was, turning 40, 41, Lani regularly having to remind me, like, now don't make this about you. Like, don't make this like. Can you just let me express my feelings without like falling on your sword or whatever the thing may be? And in this episode, that whole conversation between Xander and Anya is Xander making everything that happened about him,
Yeah,
and like both experience actually need to be reconciled with, and but people need to be heard, and when you do that, you're
yeah, yeah.
regularly making them feel like they haven't been heard. And so like that's my thing with Xander's. I think very often I find him way too relatable. So but maybe that's just me. Anyway, I do need to move on, brother. It's good to talk to you.
Okay, thanks.
uh I forgot where I was going. Did I say, oh, Lady Eternal, and then I'll go to Chance. um
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. How are you doing?
And we're going to move on to this episode because that's way too long of a discussion.
What's too long of a discussion? Timeless?
How I'm doing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. But to jump right kind of on the train of what you and Tom were just talking about, I find myself more sympathetic to Xander in a lot of ways. Um, as I've been participating in these discussions and kind of re-examining Xander from a perspective that I didn't have when I was originally watching the series.
Sure.
Um, and I've expressed in other streams that a lot of my read of Xander's character is an underexpressed arc about his abuse trauma.
Yeah.
And the thing that stuck out to me about that moment was an undercurrent. He saw the gun. He should have done something to stop it. Xander at this point is an experienced demon fighter. He is an experienced melee fighter. As a result, he is not used to gun violence.
Yeah.
And so that weapon being brought to bear in a situation where he freezes as a result, he's holding himself accountable to an extent, even though it's again not expressed well in the moment. He's holding himself accountable for not taking immediate action when he's not used to that being the level of violence he's dealing with. He's used to dealing with beings that are coming at him with melee weapons.
Yeah.
That he's can predict their movements at this point. He can react without freezing. But if you go back to the earlier seasons, when he was first starting to get into these situations, he would freeze. He wasn't, he's holding himself to a standard that doesn't actually apply in the situation because he's thinking, oh, well, I'm used to violence in general. I should have been able to react in this situation when it's a completely different thing. But he doesn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, that
and
makes sense.
I think it's important to understanding him in that moment that not only is freezing a natural response for anyone who's facing a gun for the first time, but also because he does come from an abusive background, it's entirely possible that that freeze response is also informed by that family background of being in an abusive situation where things could escalate. We don't know how many of his family members may or may not have firearms, or that he is worried about one of these times somebody's gonna pull a gun.
Yeah, that I have mixed feelings about that exchange because that exchange is what I was thinking of when I was talking about making other people's feelings about you. Anya's trying to express what happened with Spike was solace. It was like despair. And Xander keeps attacking her or keeps sort of reacting, and she says, "If that's what you need to do," and he says, "If that's what you need to do," she says, "Don't get to play the martyr." And he says, "I'm not." And she says, "None of this would be happening if it weren't for you," referring to seeing red. And then he says, "You don't think I know that? You think I'm the hero of this place?" And that goes into the gun conversation. So there's two things being dealt with in that conversation. There's the two of them trying to reconcile seeing red, and then there's the 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 gun and the shooting and him sort of decaying into what will lead to a beautiful conversation with Dawn in season 7 about her being extraordinary. But I think this is the genesis of that in this moment, is him sort of realizing his ordinariness physically has nothing to do with his power, and showing up for Willow in that particular scene. So this is sort of that process. But I also think that there's a larger issue in their relationship and their conversation that this sort of directs away from.
It does, because Anya's trying to still bring it all back to what happened in Entropy,
Right.
because he came at her over that.
Right.
But he then, when she, don't you know this is all your fault? To an extent, what she's talking about and what he's talking about.
Yeah, she's talking about seeing red. He's talking about the gun.
Yeah, they're having two different conversations. Well, you mean Entropy, because
Yes.
Seeing Red.
Yeah. Sorry, not seeing red.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, she gets shot at the end of Seeing Red. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about about Seeing Red. She's talking about Entropy, but he brought up Entropy first. The problem is that, again, it's all kind of underbaked.
Sorry, I was thinking Seeing Red and Hell's Bells, the two different conversations.
Yeah, and the problem is it's all very much underbaked, because they're trying to have this conversation in the middle of a much more urgent situation, and not everybody has these conversations at the perfect time, but at the same time, it's the completely wrong time for them to be trying to have this conversation, because they're both still very high up emotionally. Xander is 24 hours out from dealing with a huge trauma, on top of the huge trauma from Hell's Bells and Entropy. He's still very much, neither one of them are in a place where they can have this discussion rationally.
Yeah, if there's an arc to this part of their relationship, I think it begins here and then is touched on again in Selfless, and then sort of finishes itself in season 7 when they sleep together one last time and say that felt like it, which is an ending I do love. I think it's untouched. I love that it's the most sort of adult moment that they have, being able to let each other go without hating each other, which I think is a tough thing to learn. I've always loved that scene. There's an arc here, and the arc is incomplete. It's tough to judge that moment for what it is in this moment of intensity. But I think it's interesting that your thought about Xander's abuse and his trauma sort of manifesting and freezing in that moment.
The other thing is that Xander, at the beginning of this episode, reiterates something very important about, his opinion from the last episode, in that, Buffy's trying to stop Willow. She's sure Willow's, gonna, completely slide off the wagon, and Xander's saying, you know what she did to Warren is justified, because Buffy has and does make similar judgment calls um, as the Slayer. He's trying to appeal to the side of her that's saying, you know what, we shouldn't be hunting down Willow. We should be appealing to her as our friend, because what she did to Warren is something you would have done in the same situation, except you've made that judgment call before, but she's moving so much faster than him because she's sure where Willow's going to go, and to an extent she's predicting where Willow's going to go, but only because she knows how deep the darkness is.
Yeah.
As the Slayer, she knows how deep that pit is, and it goes back to her heart is trying to tell her, the mind spirit heart metaphor, her heart is trying to tell her, this is still Willow, we can still reason with her, this is still salvageable. But her spirit is diving as deep as she can into the darkness and into her power because it's protecting her from her pain.
Interesting.
Because if you go back to even that, Buffy has a pattern of diving into her duties as the Slayer to hide from or avoid dealing with emotional repercussions that she doesn't have the space for.
Yeah, this is where I think that the Willow stuff in this part of the season is very compelling. Some of the most memorable. Some of it's been built to for 6 seasons. It's brilliant. Like there's stuff here that I've never seen in any other show, right?
No.
But the by the same token, the Buffy part of this arc falls flat for me. The things that Willow said, because she has confronted Spike, she has ended things, and that Spike was kind of the manifestation of her despair, depression. I don't want to be here. I'm not feeling anything. I will harm myself to feel something, And by cutting that off, that was a huge act of committing to her health, committing to getting better, committing to moving forward. So like I get what they're going for when Willow says you don't even want to be here, like whatever. But for me, the timing is off because she's speaking to a version of Buffy that is from 5 episodes ago, not like Buffy's already had that moment of finding her power, claiming her authenticity, claiming her identity. And to me, this is like a stage where it all sort of falls, like the metaphor kind of breaks a little bit, because this is so about Willow and so about Tara and so about those things. I think that the links are there. They were attempted at. But when Buffy talks about, like Buffy's bit as she climbs out of the grave at the engrave, for me doesn't land the way that moment does, where in As You Were, where she cuts off Spike and says, I'm using you and it's killing me, and that takes power and strength, is owning her actions and walking the hard road, right? And so that's sort of where I'm at with this. I think those connections you're talking about are there, but I just struggled that they don't land for me, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I think there's an externality to the metaphor at this point that, again, is a little underbaked.
Yeah.
But that moment that Willow is standing there and she's saying these things to Buffy, is very much akin to the brain weasels in the back of your head, that even though the situation is resolved and everything is fine, come back to you sometimes years later and remind you how you screwed up that time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or just the idea of sobriety in general is I say in the Angel videos, redemption is not a destination; it is a journey. It is something taken on every day. And if the sobriety metaphor can apply to Buffy, Willow, is tickling the idea, the self doubt that is already there.
But the other thing is about that moment too, which is it's a very definitive break for me because prior to that moment, Willow was very focused on Jonathan and Andrew. She was still Willow,
Yeah.
but she was in a fury. She was in a suicidal fury, really, because the scene where she's going at the police station, she's paying absolutely no attention to the
Doesn't
multiple police officers that are there pointing guns at
Yeah,
her.
doesn't care about the bullets.
She's not even considering whether or not they're going to open fire, which, considering how panicky all of them were, any one of them could have pulled the trigger.
It's funny too.
And so,
We don't talk a lot about Willow killing Kralik.
no,
Yeah, in the long, the short of it, it's funny. Like the whole morality. But that doesn't apply to Kralik or
but
Rack. Excuse me.
yeah. But the other thing is, too, that that moment is when she goes from in a blinding pain and therefore in so much, enraged from how much pain she's in, that she's can only focus on Jonathan and Andrew, to absolutely unhinged and act and very much echoing the mayhem and the cruelty of Vampire Willow.
Right.
She was not there because she didn't show up in the police station to taunt them. She didn't walk through the police station and lay waste to the cops. She showed up at the police station, and the guy who was apparently sitting outside taking a drink of coffee waiting for his partner in the car, she just tells him to take a nap. She doesn't obliterate them. She sends a couple of them flying because they're pointing guns at her, but then she just kind of ignores them. After she drains Rack to the point where he's just floating upside down and
it's the turning
possibly
point.
maybe dead, that's when she's cracked in half and she's completely lost all access to her empathy and her arrogance, and she's talking about herself in the third person for a while until she really gets into talking about Willow and then Tara, and then she comes back, which is an interesting break as well.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's in that moment, she's so disassociated from herself and her pain that the person that she was before she drained Rack is a completely different person.
Well, it reminds me. I do need to move on, but it reminds me of the little piece of metal line to Warren in the previous episode. But I appreciate your time. Let me go to Chance, and then we'll go to Emily. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome. Two to go.
Two to go.
Two to go. Tell me about two to go.
Well, to kind of pick up the thread where you all left it, one of the things that I kind of twigged to while watching you and Lani during the live stream part of it was her desire to have the emotional breakdown of Buffy and Willow during that piece when they're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that, and it's one of those things where I don't think that would have worked as well as we think, because for the way Grave resolves to happen right now, Willow isn't feeling anything, and she can't let herself feel anything.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was one of those where, and it's kind of the following on of draining Rack kind of helped put her fully over that edge where she's
I think
cut herself off.
I think I get what you're saying. I think there's a version of that also might work. But specifically, the thing that we're struggling with is the dialogue does not reflect the emotional experience of the audience. right?
This is true.
This is
Yeah.
an incredible moment in the show where two people who have been best friends and cried on each other's shoulders are punching each other in the face. And even
Yeah.
Buffy resorts to, I'll show you what a Slayer is, which feels dissonant, nonetheless.
I mean,
You
it
don't have to go to
is.
full on crying, but I'm just saying something other than
So
this.
I will say I give credit to Sarah Michelle Gellar's performance in that,
Sure, it's
because
great.
when I watch that line, like I see the heartbreak and all of those emotions in her eyes that she is putting the Slayer mask over because Willow has pushed her to the point where she has to fight her, and
Well,
she's
one
preparing herself for that in the way that she does.
one thing we said in the rewatch, which I just want to reiterate, is that none of
Yep.
our complaints are an issue with the performances.
No, no,
I I
it's
I,
true.
I think both actresses are flawless, and they're doing what they can with the lines. I think if you're not having them cathart all over each other, if you're wanting to represent sort of numb Willow, there's a more interesting nihilistic version of this villain where she's talking about nothing means anything, and Giles almost brings us there, where he says, "I see." He brings up the philosophy. She's in like depression, numbness is a state of nihilism. Nothing means
Yep.
anything. Nothing, and he says in the next episode, your friends become meaningless when your emotions. He tries to
Yep.
call her on it for a minute, and like so those ingredients that we're looking for are there, like, but
Yeah.
they are just sort of like we're talking about half baked, like they
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
have been the scene's entire. Instead, we get you need every square inch of your ass kicked, which is okay. It's okay. It's just
Yeah.
I
It,
think
it
about
is very
Tara
much
laying on the
the
floor, and I'm like, that's not what I want out of this
like
experience.
I think sometimes I see the pieces and make more of like see what they were trying for and miss some of the execution of it. Like
I've been
it
accused of that in my videos over and over
is the
again.
thing.
People,
Um.
so I'm right there with you. My videos,
So
I'm digging for that, which is different than the videos are a
true.
celebration. This is more of a discussion. So I get where you're
Yeah.
coming from.
And like similarly, like one of the things that I've realized these last couple weeks that just is why my experience of watching Buffy is so weird and different than so many others, because as I mentioned last time, I started with season 7. So I was watching season 7 and then going back and watching everything else, which means like the mislead of Spike seeking his soul
Doesn't
is
feel
something
like a
that
mislead.
like the fact that it was a mislead went entirely over my head, and all of those scenes worked for me experiencing them the first time because I knew that was the end goal. It was like one of the weird times where having the spoiler makes the scene better
I love that
because like those in retrospect those scenes work when you know where they're going, except that like there are a couple line deliveries that, as you've pointed out, are like, yeah, those don't quite work, but they were like quick enough, and they were Spike enough that I didn't notice. They didn't seem like a problem to me as I experienced it for the first time, because like, yes, he's getting his soul back, but he's still going to be a bitch about it and be like, yeah.
Well, I was gonna say, like, one of the headcanons.
She's going to get what she deserves, and it's
One of
like,
the
yeah,
headcanons
I'm
that
trying
I've-
to be a good.
One of the head-
I'm going to be a person with a soul again,
one
but
of
I'm
the
not going to be
headcanons-
happy about it.
Yeah, that is one of the headcanons that I've had from this is like, he has to, how does a soulless demon motivate itself to get a soul? And he has to trick himself into wanting the
Yeah.
soul. And the idea that him having a soul would be a punishment to Buffy, that screw her, like she'll see what she's done to me, like all the punishment, all the evil things she does to me, or the way she treats me, or whatever. He's got to dupe the demon into completing that act, and that almost works for me. My problem is I get annoyed, but when I feel like the episode is trying to put one over on the audience.
This is
right.
true.
I don't mind a trick. I don't mind a turn, as long as it was consistent all the way through. Right.
If it's tricking the characters as well as the audience,
as well,
it
if
makes
we're
sense.
duped along with the characters, then totally fine. But if it only works the first time through, and then every time you watch it again, you know that stupid coin does nothing in people's eyeballs, and they're not saying anything about it, then that feels like a trick on the audience, and I hate that. And I feel like the show's above it. That's what it is. It's like, in a lesser show, fine, but like the reason why that sounds like the reason why I nitpick is because I love this damn show so much, right?
It is a show that is good enough that the nits deserve to be picked, because
right. I've spent 10 years of my life.
The rest of the show is high. Sets a high enough bar that the things that are below the bar need to be addressed.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, yeah. Like for some of us to knit is part of our way of celebrating anyway, right?
It's true.
We only knit about the things we love, and I definitely love this show. So anyway, is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
Let's see. I will say I do love the Andrew and Jonathan bits in this episode. I remember, I think it was a commentary that was on like the premiere of season 7, but one of the commentaries where the writers are talking about writing the trio and just how they had pages and pages and pages of stuff material that they had to stop that they had to cut short, because when they let those characters talk, it was just like, yep, we could do this forever.
Yeah. I mean, that feels like late night drinks in the writer's room. Yeah. And they just oh, let's just write that down.
And the note along, one of the interesting things that I like about those two characters in this episode is, there's a reason that Andrew is the character that has to go on into season 7.
Yeah.
Because Jonathan has had his story. Like, he has his redemption and his arc over the course of these episodes at the end of season 6. So he's already there. And season 7, it has to be Andrew, because he's the one who hasn't gotten there yet. So he has to go through his process of redemption and learning to dismiss what he was before.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It works for me, and I love Andrew in season 7. The whole there are issues, but we'll get to them when we get there. All right, my friend.
That's true.
Let me go over to Emily, and then we'll go to Allison. Emily, hello.
Ooh. Hi. I could talk about 87 different things.
Well, let's start with number 62.
I think. Oh, okay. Well, never mind. I think the big one. I think I'm gonna think of two things. The big one, I think, for me for this episode is this episode works to clarify what the big bad is for this season, because the whole entire season it's like, oh, our big bads are the supervillain trio, but that's not the case at all. They were just kind of the side plot little annoyance, which is how they're treated during this. It's like, we don't care about you guys, we care about Willow. You're just kind of annoying, and we just kind of have to deal with you.
Yeah.
Rack was put in there, which I think a lot of people probably watching this is like, ooh, this guy is a bad thing. He's killed pretty quick. Like you said, we don't think about it. It's this guy was just here for a little bit. He was Willow's issue with magic was going to become an issue whether or not Rack was there. Was he a catalyst? Sure. But I think probably some people probably saw that. And it's like, oh, this guy's going to be a big issue we're going to have to deal with. But gets rid of him. And then Willow is the main big bad because the entire season for all of our main characters, the big bad was their own personal issues.
Yeah,
In all the other seasons, it's flipped around where it's like, oh, we have this big bad thing that we have to fight, and our own personal issues are kind of our little side plot, our little things, but this is the big thing. And it flips that. And I like it, like, obviously, I love the season, but this episode basically, Willow takes out Rack. The supervillain trio are treated like annoyances, and Willow in this episode really becomes Dark Willow in the sense that she starts teasing and taunting everyone. It's personal. It is their personal issues that are being embodied in like one of their closest friends, which is the big bad. So I feel like part of the reason, probably like you said, that at this point, if anybody didn't like the supervillain trio, it doesn't bug them as much anymore. It's because they finally went, okay, in case you didn't get what we were doing this season, here, we're gonna lay it out for you for this episode, so at least you get it for the finale of what's going on.
The interesting, it's an interesting point you bring up too. I think that when I think about the big bads that I like versus the ones I struggle with, to me, the defining difference between them is relatability. Probably my favorite big bad, little bad is the mayor and Faith, because their relationship is relatable. They, even though it's toxic, even though he's controlling her, and even though she's Faith, the two of them together, there's love there. You can see the love and affection that they have for each other, and that's a beautiful thing in a villain, is to give us access to maybe why they do the things that they do, or to show that there, but for the grace of being a giant snake, could go I. Like that's thought provoking, and the big bads that don't do that for me are like Glory. Glory, I find relatively unrelatable until the gift, when she's sitting having conversations with Dawn, and in that moment you get that a peek into her. She's accessible, like she's no less evil, but there's a moment of accessibility there, and I think that head of the snake, Warren. I think that Warren struggles for me a little bit in the way that maybe Glory and the other ones do, in that he is a pure sociopath. He is a pure, he doesn't, like, the comedic interactions with the two other guys are funny, but he is purely there for the power. What he does to Katrina is reprehensible, and then let alone Tara. Like, so once you remove him, Andrew and Jonathan suddenly have that accessibility that, again, I think makes them more interesting. Jonathan, a little bit, once that scene with Katrina starts to occur, begins to arc, and I think that's where we sort of understand why they're here. But until that scene, a lot of time for the rest of the season, like you said, I think there's an argument to be made that the big bad or the little bad of this season is life itself. You yourself, your own baggage, your own unaddressed trauma. And I think that's I don't know if that's canon or there's a writer that would say that was the case, but I think it's an interesting reading of the scene. It's probably one that I'll do in the videos. Because until we get to the guys are interesting commentary about entrenched misogyny, or not entrenched, just misogyny, but specifically misogyny in, at the time, communities that we didn't think expressed it. Misogyny among victims themselves. They were bullied, they were mistreated, but they were not the heroes either. Right, and I think that's interesting, but yeah, like they don't read to me as a big or little bad during the season, as you said.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people see the supervillain trio and they're like, oh my God, like that's literally the worst big bad, because they don't read it. They think, oh, this is the supernatural force that's consistently going up against Buffy. But throughout the entire season, it's all of their, it's just, life that's piling on.
Yeah.
And it's, reading it so strictly in the fact that they flipped everything. Also, before I move on, because you actually made a really good segue to my next point, but Glory is actually one of my favorite villains
I'm in the
because
minority, I
I
think, on that one.
yeah, but I think for me, you probably did not have the similar experience to me, in the sense that as far as comparing Buffy to Glory, in she being very similar to kind of this like teenage persona of being like this fashionable blonde powerful chick, but just like so untouchable,
Yeah.
of being a teenage girl or a young woman and seeing that other woman around that's just way better than you, and no matter what you do you're kind of hopeless, and you're like, great, the better version of me that I don't even have to, but I also love it because she's fabulous, and she's so funny and entertaining to watch. It's great.
I love
But
that. I'm so glad you shared that because again, that's an
yeah,
experience I don't have access to. That's like
shockingly.
who's the jock in season 2 that throws Xander up against the Coke machine?
Larry.
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 Yeah, Larry.
Yeah, Larry's that's like if Larry were the big bad of of the season. I love that thought. Like,
Yeah.
if in some way that character, because that or Biff Tannen, that's Biff Tannen as the big bad of the season. I love that idea. That's great.
Yeah, because like I don't want to relate to that person. I just want to see her ass be kicked, because screw that girl. She ruined 4 years of my life. But the other note, which on the supervillain trio, which I absolutely adore. I love Andrew. They're some of my favorite villains because I see so many like of men I'm friends with, men I had school with, like as a woman in tech, let me tell you,
Yeah.
in engineering school, there's a lot of guys like that. And just to like, even in whenever I went to university, whatever, however many years ago, that those guys still exist, and the idea of them being like, okay, this is fun, whatever, and then not realizing until later, like I think in Dead Things, it was the first time when Katrina is like, what are you doing? This is rape. Like, this is not fun and games. And they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And being like bystanders, as well as, getting caught up in things with your friends, and then somebody gets hurt and you're like, well, wait, that wasn't my intention. I think that is so good. And I think also, like you guys have said, like a group of guys here are like, oh my God, I know these characters. I relate so much to them.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
being able to see yourself in guys that are perpetuating this, and kind of asking the audience to kind of reflect on themselves in that way,
Yeah. It's
is very
interesting.
interesting.
It's interesting. And you mentioned that, and it makes me think like maybe there was an opportunity here for Xander to have a little bit more of a journey in using them as a sobering mirror, as Oz would say. The closest we come, I think, is in season 5, where Xander talks about in "I Was Made to Love You" the sex spot, and then looks around and he says, "Nobody." He says, "I miss Oz." He wouldn't say anything, but he would get it, right? And it's a funny line, and
Yeah.
Nicholas Brendan is wonderful, but Warren is the person that built this machine that tortures itself when Warren isn't around. It feels pain. It's Warren's sex toy that feels pain when Warren isn't there. Like
Yeah.
and yet we have that joke. So that's one of those things that people are always talking about with Xander is like, it would have been interesting if more of that was brought into this season, where you have the trio as sort of different representations of misogyny, and for Xander as the version to see his own sort of entrenched misogyny and sort of to have an opportunity to confront it and to work to be better. One of the things
Yeah.
that people complain about in the show is that's what a lot of the guys say, but it's just, what am I, mass transportation? That's what a lot of the guys say, but It's really just locker room talk. And no, it's like the argument is, I suppose, that teenagers talk that way to each other, but there's a difference between that happening and the writing feeling like it's co-signing it or not addressing it, right? And so maybe there was an opportunity in this season for Xander to sort of have that moment. I don't think it's a commentary on Xander's character, but it is what it is. And again, when we talk about it's a triggering conversation for a lot of people, I understand. And this is maybe not the medium for it, but I just love that idea that you were talking about.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? There was something. Oh, Xander for me. I think the biggest issue or the reason why I think Xander gets so much hate is because his the time and effort they put into making like his good qualities versus his faults is out of whack. Because I think even when he started, is they're like, oh, he's gonna, make these weird sexual comments, hit on his friends constantly, stuff like that. And I think when it was being written, it wasn't, it was considered like, oh, he's just kind of horny, not, oh no, this is a serious, like, annoying issue. Any
Yeah, it
woman would want
was.
to slap him upside the head. And they didn't spend enough time being like, no, he's a good person. Because, if he's kind of horny and annoying sometimes, you need to be like, shut up, Xander. I'm
Yeah,
fine. I'm all about that character.
the
It's
trope
just,
is
it's out of whack.
yeah, the trope is boys will be boys.
Yeah, exactly.
In the first or second season, when Buffy's changing and Xander looks in the mirror, that's in Star Trek. Kirk does that. I'm talking about the J.J. Abrams. Kirk turns around and it's made a joke of, as opposed like it doesn't play very well anymore. It doesn't play. But like it was so common that I think like it just
Plus, like, this is going to be a bit of a leap, but knowing that it's Joss Whedon's self-insert,
right.
if because Joss Whedon, I think, at least, especially when he was writing Buffy, he liked himself a lot. And you're like, I already know myself. I'm great. We're gonna mostly do this. I don't need to spend the time to make people like me. I'm great. They're just gonna love me.
Yeah, he
So
wasn't nerd god yet.
it's yeah. I think he's just more focused on being like, here's my faults, here's my struggles, here's all my stuff, and less, why is this a redeemable, likable character in other people's views? Because the way you view yourself versus other people, it may be that, but
Well, I think
um,
Xander is self-hating, and I think Xander is written as an abused, traumatized character, right? But to some degree, I think that's one of the reasons why he bears a similarity to the trio. He's a much healthier, much farther along on the journey human being than any of the members of the trio. But that abuse, like we were talking about, that abuse, that treatment that you've experienced doesn't justify doing wrong,
yeah,
in the same way, right? I always think of Damage from Angel season 5. She's an innocent victim. So were we once upon a time. That episode itself is about abuse and the cycle of abuse, and how that your abuse doesn't justify your own heinous actions. And
yep,
I think there's a little bit of a missed opportunity there with Xander in the relation to the trio. Whatever whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to label it, I think it might have been interesting, because I think the trio were a swing at something that Xander was grappling with. But nonetheless, I do need to move on. I'm sorry.
yeah, no
Good
worries.
stuff. I
Is it
just got
okay if
sucked
I
into it.
stay on afterwards to just say
Sure, yeah.
like one quick thing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Uh,
Thank you.
I forgot who I was going to next. I think I was going to Allison, and then we'll go
Yep.
to Lauren. Allison, are you there?
Yep. Hiya.
Hello, hi. Good to see you or hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So I unfortunately was not here for the villains discussion, so I, like Chance, am going to want to go back and talk
Yeah,
a
wherever you
little
want.
bit about the uh talk a little bit about the Spike and where he's going and how does that work in universe. Even though we can gripe about the writers a lot out of universe, in universe there are no writers to gripe at. So presumably.
Yeah. No, I'm
Anyway,
with you. Yeah, there's no Chuck.
so the point that got brought up, I think, when you were talking to Chance already, was okay, where is this anger and bitterness coming from in the line delivery? Is one of the questions to bring up in sort of trying to square what's going on. And the idea that, and you brought up the idea that, oh, going and getting a soul is a form of punishing Buffy because she'll see what it's done to me. I've also seen someone bring up the take that I think maybe works is that Spike has had a season and a half of Buffy saying the reason I can't love you is because you don't have a soul,
Right.
or because you're a vampire, but you loved Angel. It's because of the soul. It's because of the soul. It's because of the soul. And so eventually getting to the point where it's like, fine, I'll go get a soul, but I'm going to be angry and bitchy about it the whole time. Does actually sort of track. And the other thing about the first conversation with the soul-giving demon, who I might shorthand and call Lloyd, whether or not it's actually
like
DeHoffman's friend that he refers to later. Maybe that's his name, maybe it's not.
I like
Whichever.
Lloyd.
But
it's Lloyd now, and it's going to be in the videos.
Oh, okay, excellent. Okay, so the thing that's happening in that conversation, even though the chip does get brought up, what's happening is that Spike is starting to go and talk through how he's ended up in this situation, because the situation he's in is where the chip won't let him be a monster and he can't be a man, and then he needs to figure out some way to resolve one or the other of those. And so as he starts into this story, he starts with it started since I got this chip. So that is a time marker for the beginning of a story. That doesn't mean that's the subject of what he's looking to get changed.
Okay. I think I follow that.
And it's also that, okay, the conversation is a little wonky if you consider it's about a soul, but the conversation also is wonky if you consider it's about a chip, because it's like, what are you doing? So Spike's showing up here and he's like, I would like a chip removal service. And the demon is like, because you got chipped, you are not enough of a demon and you won't be able to pass the trials. So there's no way you'll be able to do this. You are, the fact that you were chipped means that you are not demon enough. You've been reduced to this. You are no longer a dark warrior. And it's like, well, why are you offering a neutered vampire repair service if the mere fact of that being true means that they aren't worthy of it? Like, that doesn't actually work either.
Yeah. Well, and he so openly called it a chipectomy, I think, in season 5, when he was still with Harmony, to not openly say it here. I will say, the first time I watched it, I guessed what was happening. It didn't.
Okay.
It didn't take the.
It's
annoyance.
not that confusing. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't take the annoyance away from me. It was because, as you were saying, it was so deliberately vague. He doesn't commit one way or another to saying it's the chip or otherwise, and the only reason when I was watching it the first time that they would do that is if they were trying to pull the surprise that it was his soul. So for me, when I was watching it, it wasn't a surprise when it happened, but it was still annoying because because it's inspiring if it's the soul too. Like, that's almost more interesting. How interesting would those scenes be? How do those scenes play for us, the audience? I mean, we have to bear in mind what happened in Seeing Red and the trauma that is for certain audience members, me included. But him then as seeking redemption, trying to get the soul or whatever, like whatever you want to call what he's doing in that scene, for us to know that it's the soul up front, I think is more compelling, like than the way it's played, which is, I guess that the chances that he's trying to get rid of the chip so that he can be the big bad of season 7, which is not that interesting because he's already been the big bad, and we know what he's capable of as a character. We know we've seen him not exactly arc, but learn, definitely become different. I wouldn't call it an arc, but I think that he has changed over time from his character. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm again hijacking your point, but
that's okay. I think that if I was messing it with it, and this is a recent thought, but if I was messing it with it, I think the way it should have gone is keep most of it the same, but have that conversation include a part where Lloyd is like, and when you say you want to return to your former self, do you mean remove the chip or do you mean something else?
Yeah.
And then have Spike brush past it and not answer, and have it imply that, so that we still have the tension. Spike could get through all these trials and decide to get the chip removed, or like have Lloyd say this or that, or have you not decided yet? And have there be, oh, Spike might be getting the chips removed. That's a legitimate possibility for where he could go, or it could be something else. We don't know exactly what. And he himself hasn't necessarily chosen that yet.
Yeah, so he can restore him to one or the other, and he doesn't make the decision until he's broken on the ground. And then in that last minute, but I think that would play too. Like, he has an impulse, a momentary thing while he's broken on the ground. But either way, I think also the thing you got to do is get rid of all of the bitch is gonna see a change. I've seen one of the signs for some when people still thought that Buffy was kind of a pinnacle feminist parable. Season 6 was for a lot of people the signs of there's some stuff here. And one of the other things is like the number of times this season they use the word bitch over and over and over again, to me becomes a little fatiguing, in a way.
I think you could have
like,
a feminist story that portrays misogyny and with that misogynistic terminology.
That's fair.
There's problems, but like it's not just the use of the word.
Yeah, it's not just the use of the word. It's just a weird kind of, and at this point, as I understand it, Whedon was already gone. It's just such a strange choice. If it's not that, to me, I still find it bothersome. But anyway, I'm sorry. What else you got for this one?
Okay, going to actually this episode, 2 to go. Just wanted to point out one thing about so the conversation Willow has with Dawn, and so the Willow who was kind and caring and parental is gone, and we've got this very annoyed with Dawn, calling her whiny, saying that she would be better as a ball version. It reminds me as a parallel to Jesse and Xander back in the first 2 episodes of season 1. And after Jesse has been turned and so flips to calling Xander an excruciating loser. And that, so if we're playing with the state that Willow is in is similar to her vampire self, then I think it's interesting that there's also a parallel to that other vampire story.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting the way it plays. But I definitely see the parallels there that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of categorizing big bads for seasons, and Willow being the big bad for this, just throwing out there, part of the reason, considering the trio as minor bads who are then with the role taken over by the true big bad, means that we have a pattern for the seasons where
Sure.
all of the odd numbered ones have a big bad all the way through, and then a minor bad joins them part way through, and then all of the even numbered seasons have a starting minor bad or minor bads who are then with the story taken over by the true big bad of the season. And so like that, framing that way partially allows us to do that level of parallelism.
Interesting. I've never heard that even odd interpretation before. Reminds me of the good Star Trek movies versus the bad Star Trek movies.
So like Anointed joins the Master, Faith joins the Mayor. Very late, we have Doc joining Glory, and Caleb joining the First. And then we have, Angelus takes over from Spike and Drew. Adam takes over from Walsh, and Willow takes over from the trio.
Interesting. You want us to wrap up the episode?
I think I'm good.
All right. Let me go over to Lauren, and then we'll wrap up with Russell. Lauren, hello.
Hey, Ian, how are you?
I'm great. These are always interesting.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll go to like Xander at the very start of the episode. I think part of what they're doing with him in this episode is a little bit pointing out his lack of supernaturalness, his lack of sort of
they're
exceptional
definitely
powers.
leading towards that.
Yeah, like right at the beginning, you got Willow who's going off in magical thingamajigger to go kill Andrew and Jonathan, and then we have Anya teleport out of there, and then Buffy, using her Super Slayer strength hikes over a car, and Xander's like, great, and I can't even follow you in a regular car because the car's like trashed, and it's him sort of feeling like he's got nothing to contribute.
Yeah.
And I think he's also feeling that guilt of, I didn't do anything when Warren had a gun. And I think that's foreshadowing in the next episode how he saves the world with his humanity. And I think that links in with that scene with Anya as well, like him feeling like, he's pathetic and he has nothing to offer. And but yeah, I do agree with the assessment of sort of making it all about him, and he still has that room for growth and everything. But I think it's like he's trying to show that progress.
I think that scene is layered. I think that scene is, as Lady Eternal said, about the gun. I also think it's about them working out the minutia of their experience at a time that maybe doesn't suit it. Like, health is a journey, not a destination. And I think you see those two characters on the journey through that scene. But there's more to travel. And I love that you see, like, if you look at the Anya and Xander arc, you see the steps all the way to that post-coital sequence in season 7, where they're able to let each other go with grace.
Absolutely.
Which is such a hard lesson.
I really like Xander in season 7. I actually think he's made a heap of improvement. And I love the start of season 7. Oh, sorry, I'll get to it when we get to it later. But I think he's wonderful. I love that sort of family unit he's formed with Buffy and Dawn, but he's accepted that he and Buffy are never going to be together. And I think, it's a really good level of development for him.
Well, just to be clear, too, because I get a bad reputation in these discussions, I love all the Scoobies. I love Xander. Like, I think that the flaws and struggles and all of that are relatable. I think that it's interesting to dive in and to talk about these things.
If they were all perfectly well adjusted, what would we have 7 seasons about? Like, they have to start one place and develop and journey. And that's, I think, one of the fun. I love watching high school stuff. I don't know why I'm way out of high school myself, but I think it's because you're in that transition. You're still learning and growing and changing. It's not that you don't learn and grow and change when you're older, but a lot of you're still working a lot of stuff out when you're a teenager.
Yeah, and I think I don't participate in the online communities as much as I used to when I started doing this, but one of the common things, when with shippers and groups that attack a certain character and whatever, is it's very easy to say, but if you're attacking Spike, but Angel murdered her teacher, there's every character has done wrong in the show, except for like the only character that feels complete is Tara. By the end of her run on the show, she feels like the most compassionate, the most far along that journey of anyone else, right?
I think that's why her death has such an impact. Like I always think like Wallace in The
100,
Wire.
yeah.
Like there's a reason why I bawl my eyes out when Wallace gets killed in The Wire, because he stands out as being incredibly sort of sweet and naive in a lot of ways in like a world that's kind of crazy and violent.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen The Wire, but
well, we talk about Xander's moments when they occur, but like Willow from Tabula Rasa, or from Once More Revealing to Tabula Rasa, there's incredibly dark things that occur in there with her wiping Tara's mind and then having sex with her. But every character has those.
they all, yeah.
Yeah, everyone has done, all of these characters that we love have done terrible things, and that's part of drama. That's part of what makes the show so interesting. So I just wanted to clarify and qualify, like,
I'm not going to reproach you for anything. And actually, I think
hate
your
any of
conversation's
the
actually
characters.
allowed me to see Xander in a better light as well.
I
And
think the only
it's
character I
such-
hate is Warren, but I think I think he's there to be hated. Tom's saying everybody hates Warren.
Yeah, but even him, like, I do have a bit of sympathy for someone who got picked on repeatedly for being sort of not the alpha male type, even though
it's part of the art.
where he goes with that, I do, like, he's pretty unredeemable by the end, but I get, like, I can see A to B to C, even with him, even though I hate his guts. And, I like Xander in this episode, and I love that he hotwires a police car in front of the entire Sunnydale police department. And even though he's feeling like he's a wimp or whatever because he didn't do enough when he saw the gun, but, like, he's still doing some stuff, he's still contributing.
I always think of
Picking up
Oz's line. I say this to Lani a lot now that we live in a van. Our lives are different than other people's. Like that line pops into my head quite a bit recently, but him hot wiring the car reminds me of that.
Yeah. On the Brack stuff, I think sometimes we forget that Willow just killed a human, other than Warren, like she killed Brack. But actually she didn't kill him because it comes back in the comics that he was in a coma, but they don't make that clear. I totally thought he was dead. Yeah. And I was like, well, Brack is magical, but like Willow's magical. She's still human, so I feel like there should be a little bit more of a like.
He's supernatural. I think the line the show draws is supernatural. The supernatural puts him in Buffy's purview. It reminds me of the hyena guy from season 1, the pack. Once the hyena guy is possessed of chooses to be possessed of the spirits, it's sort of being magically infected. Buffy throws him into it. Buffy didn't have to throw him into a pit to be torn apart by hyenas. She could have stood on him. She could have put him in a headlock. There's a number of ways to approach that problem. She threw him in a cage and he got eaten by hyenas. But we don't.
Anya chooses to become a vengeance demon again, and Willow is choosing to deal with Dark Mojo. So I think there's an argument that they're in that same category. One thing I was going to say, I thought it was interesting that that discussion between Clem and Dawn, and Clem is talking about how Rack's a bit creepy with little girls, and then it's like when Willow takes all this magic, she's like, "Hey there, cutie," and it's like the magic is sort of like what's come from him is infecting her, and I think that's interesting foreshadowing for what Giles pulls on Willow in the next episode. Like, it's like you're taking on elements of the magic of the person.
I wondered if this is the first time I've thought about, because Willow speaks of herself in the third person in that scene. I wondered if we're to read that as she took on bits of his identity in the magic that she took from him. If that's true, okay. I don't think that's clear, but the magic that she takes from him, clearly she's a different person when it's done. Down
I think
to
they're doing it deliberately. They're not addressing it because they want it to be a surprise, because they want Giles' trick on her to work. If they had made that more clear, I think it would be less of a surprise to the audience.
It's just a little bit, again, half baked.
little clunky. The
Yeah.
other thing, strawberries. I don't know if I mentioned it in a previous thing or not. I meant to. Strawberries are a name given to prostitutes who have sex with drug dealers for drugs, and I think it's interesting that Rack is nicknamed Willow Strawberry, and there's all this,
That's fascinating.
showers after she's been to Rack's, and there's a whole heap
But-
of
I think I've heard that before, but it's been a long time. I think that's a probably spot on accurate reading of
yeah. It's just, I guess it doesn't get
the layer that we're
into enough
supposed to
because
read
it's a
from
bit
that.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it throws the scene where she's in the shower crying against the wall midway through the season into a different interpretation for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, what else was I going to say? Hold on. Give me 1 second. Oh yeah, okay. So in terms of the like Willow trying not to feel anything and really shutting off her grief and her becoming sort of callous, like her, at some points it doesn't feel like Willow, and I guess we're trying to explain it, but as someone watching it, I don't love it. Like I think I would have preferred seeing Buffy and Willow both being really torn, and I don't want to fight you, but you're in the way. Stop protecting them. I just want to kill them. Like, stop trying to stop me, Buffy. And Buffy being like, I don't want to fight you, Willow, but like I have to because I can't let you cross this line or whatever. I think that would have been much more enjoyable. I would have loved that more if they both end in tears and they're fighting, and it's breaking my heart. In terms of why I think they don't do that, is because I think they always love to pull the last big thing at the last second, and they don't want you. Like, if Willow's already dealing with her grief and already crying, then you don't have her continuing to be shut off, continuing to go for the apocalypse, and having the breakdown moment, catharsis with Xander at the end. I think they want it to be like that, but I actually wish they'd gone the other option, like as in them having this emotional fight. Like Willow could still have been saying those callous things to Buffy about, you fuck a vampire just to feel something and all this crap. I mean, I get what you're saying, because I feel like they could have done it. The Buffy and Spike stuff maybe could have not been resolved as early, and then Spike could have just been missing for these couple of episodes, but because he's such a fan favorite, maybe they didn't want him off screen just getting his soul over the after the end of the season.
It may even come down to sort of like unions, like if if his contract says that he was hired for X number of episodes, then they are required to have him in a B story doing, there's so many shows where there's an A story and a B story, and the B story feels weak in comparison to what's Star Trek has. Next Generation has that happened quite a bit. Like, and it's fine. It's part of the structure. It's part of the business. It's part of the whole thing. But it just is. Every once in a while, it creaks, and I think this Marsters is so effortlessly charismatic. I don't think it's actually the problem here. Like, I think it's. I would have been fine if I'm going to get my soul, and then we watch him do all the same scenes identically, but we know he's going to get his soul. It's the attempt at the twist. It's the attempt that I just find,
I absolutely detested.
That I find kind
I
of.
was like
kind
4 episodes into season 7 before I realized he deliberately got his soul. I thought he was getting a chipectomy, and then
that's another problem. Yeah, I think you can read that.
Over and gone, you said you want to be how you were before, like the way when you're not specific with wish. So I thought he accidentally got his soul restored.
Because they don't make it clear. You could read it like the demon's like, ha ha, prank.
Yes.
It's a prank show. I give your soul back instead.
Yeah. You wanted the chip out, but how you were before was human. Here you go. I'm returning to humanity. Yes, I know. That's what I thought happened. Well, I was like episodes into season 7 before I was like, wait. Oh, wait, he really did go to do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I mean, as soon as the scene on the cross in the church, I love that scene. I think it's beautiful. Like, as soon as that scene happens, it sort of redeems all of this. And I don't actually think this is a big deal. It's just, like, drawn out over multiple episodes, this little annoyance. And I think it highlights, like, there's sort of unresolved issues we have to deal with the way Seeing Red was written, which I don't want to relitigate. But either way, I do need to move on. Is there one last thing you want to throw out about the episode?
Yeah, I guess there is a whole thing about that it's sort of meant to be Willow fighting herself. Like a lot of this season is a lot of internal struggle, like dealing with addiction and dealing with depression. And
Yeah.
I don't know how well I think it hits when you then do it as an apocalypse and she's trying to kill everyone. And I think it's not clear enough to me because like the format of the show has been external things. If you're now doing an internal thing, I think you have to make it more clear what you're trying to do. But in terms of like why she is shutting down her emotions, she's trying not to feel anything, and she's fighting all her friends, and I don't love it because it's like for someone who had no other relationships in their life, then you losing the person that you love is super devastating, and it makes sense why you like off the deep end. Willow has been shown to have meaningful relationships with other characters in the show, and she's been fighting the good fight for so many years. So to just see her go from one extreme to the other so quickly, when we know she is a souled character, it's just really hard for me to watch that and to sort of pass it out. Like,
I think it's hard to watch. I think it's, for me personally though, it's well set up, and I think in aid of it, what you're talking about is season 4. You know, sort of the breakdown of the Scoobies, not just the Yoko factor, but everyone growing apart and everyone sort of redirecting and separating and all of that. And then came Tara, you know, and then season 5, that relationship is sort of her shining light. Restless indicates that they are yin and yang. She's the dark, Tara is the light. And so, and then Willow's dependence on magic is set up in season 2, with her trying to wipe Xander's, to delust Xander and she from, rather than face her problems. So for me, it's one of the more well set up character arcs.
I don't doubt that they deal with it magically. It's just like go from I want to kill Warren, which I totally get, kill Andrew Jonathan. I totally get that one too, even though she's getting interest, is what Anya says. I maybe you've heard like I'm going to round up all the misogynists, or I'm going to do like it's the apocalypse of every man, woman, child. Like she's deciding like the only way to end the pain. I know I've seen people say it's like it's more of a suicide attempt, but to me, she actually actively almost does a whole apocalypse. She's a soul being that makes her worse than a lot of big bads on the show. And then like, how do you redeem her after that? It's just I know we all like grief and trauma and whatever.
Yeah,
but
well, we all have our it's interesting. I think that some people have that problem with Spike. Like everyone has that character on the show. It's interesting. The more we talk about this, the more I feel like the trio might have done a little bit of a disservice to some of the themes that we're talking about, because the thrust of this season is depression, is sadness. Emily was talking about this, and the line that occurred to me is, "This is hell. This is hell. Life is hell. Life is the big bad." And Buffy's fighting that big bad for the course of the season. And I think that while the trio are interesting commentaries on the bullied becoming the villain, I think that's not well, I say that, and then that's kind of what that's kind of the Willow arc. I don't know. It's like everything in season 6. It's so complicated. There's so many elements. They don't all gel, but there's so many great highs. I love it in spite of that. I think it's not the most complete, well-baked season of the show.
Do you think it's like the timing is that like once you're out of high school, once you're out of that environment where you're getting picked on every day, you can still be in those patterns because you know what I mean?
Well, no, I mean the
way through it, you're gonna still like have problems into adulthood, and it's in the way of you developing and stuff.
Speaking as someone who well, we don't need to go there, but like the thing about abusers is that they teach the abused to do their work for them, right? So
you deserve it, and then you can kind of interpret.
And for me, that manifested as hearing the voices of those people in my head in my later life, into my 30s, hearing the voices of doubt that I heard in my head, had identities. It was me saying those things to myself. But abusers train the abused to carry on their work when they're gone. And I think that's what we see with some of these characters is them grappling with the truth that was beaten into them being the truth that they continue to repeat to themselves about who they are and what they are capable of and what they are and their worth and all of that. And over a long enough timeline, you and plenty of therapy and sobriety, you hope that you have the opportunity to distill that voice from your core. It never goes away, but it stops being truth. It just is sort of the echo of the past that is always there and present with you. But anyway, I do need to move on. Let me go to Russell, and we will wrap up.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, man, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
I love these discussions. It's a lot of fun.
Well, before I get to two to go, you brought up something that I've actually talked about on a lot of other channels.
Okay.
You made a comparison to the odd number of treks. I don't think that's true, buddy.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that is the case either. I know some people love every one of them. I'm just saying that's the common in the community. I've heard the even ones are the entertaining ones, the odd ones are not. I actually like Search for Spock. I do not like the motion picture. And
I do not like motion picture, but I do like Search for Spock. I do like Generation, even though it's flawed, and I do like Insurrection.
Well, that rule breaks down when you get to the new cast. I think it just applied to the OG cast, is the way I understand it to be. But you have to admit, Wrath of Khan, Voyage Home, and Undiscovered Country are in a league of their own. It's not to say that Search for Spock is not enjoyable, and I think Search for Spock is the only exception to the rule, because everyone agrees that 5 is, while it has funny moments, does not hold up. Right? Am I right? Is there anyone that loves 5? Anyway.
No.
So no.
Maybe Sean Ferret from Trek Culture.
Maybe William Shatner. I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. But anyway, back to this. I think execution and intention are very different.
Sure, yeah.
With Willow, Spike, for example, with Willow and her losing her humanity, sure, she still has a soul. But I'm reminded of that kid from Angel Season 1, where that demon's like, what soul?
What soul?
The one where Again, I know what the intention was, but the execution, you could still read it as he had a soul, he just had no humanity. Willow has no humanity by the time we get to 2 to go. She's still grieving for Tara, like we mentioned the last episode. And here, she's just on a vengeance kick against Andrew and Jonathan. Even to the point where she fails initially at the jailhouse, she is screaming, literally. Yeah. But Spike was the one I really wanted to talk about, since you guys have mentioned his quest. I know the writers intended for Spike to get a soul, but there are problems with that. First off, the way I view the mechanics of the soul canon.
Sure.
That's a big issue. And even if we go off
specifically, I mean, just
the seed of identity.
Right. You're talking about if my interpretation is that the soul is the conscience. It is the ability to choose as opposed to just act out of pure hedonism or instinct or desire or whatever the thing may be. And your argument is that it's not
It's
Liam,
the
but it's
individual.
William.
Yeah.
He's calling William back into his body. And why would a demon do that? Why would a demon choose to get rid of himself in exchange for William? So anyway, go on.
I think Spike says it best in that episode, the second Buffy episode, where he's leaning over the cross. I mean, not that specific moment, but the whole dialogue where he's basically telling Buffy, I didn't understand any of this before.
Sure, yeah.
And how could he?
Yeah.
And if this is the problem I have, if his intention was to go get the chip removed, surely Spike at that point would realize, hey, what was the first thing I did when I thought it was removed the first time? I tried to kill a girl. You know, the episode where he learns he could hurt Buffy.
Yeah.
And then he immediately goes to the alley to kill a woman, but he couldn't do it.
Well, that's an interesting point. The whole idea of Spike needing to have the chip removed is already undercut by the fact that he doesn't need to do any violence to Buffy. Right?
Yeah.
So that bait and switch makes no sense to begin with because he doesn't need to do it. So, and Russell, this may be the first time I've ever realized that, and I've been talking about this show for 10 years. Good gravy. Yeah, why, like, it doesn't work. The idea of the bait and switch doesn't work anyway. I mean, he does say, I can't be a man. But what does that even mean? If he's like, the whole time he's like, bitch is going to see a change, I'm going to attack. Like, what's going to be different? He can eat other people? Like, then she'll just kill him. Well, you know. Anyway.
And maybe, who knows? I mean, again, intention, execution. You know, you could read that scene 1,000 different ways. You could read it that Spike does want to die, suicide by cop, so to speak. Hey, I get this chip removed. Now Buffy can kill me and get it over with.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wish that whatever it was, I just wish that it had been clear and not tried to save as a cliffhanger. Because I don't think it works as a cliffhanger.
Two things real quick. I get Buffy trying to save Willow, but her whole argument, we're not killers. That's never who we are.
Yeah.
I am reminded when Buffy takes a trip to LA for vengeance against another human.
Well, again, I think that line is challenging because Buffy has a code, but the code is never clearly defined in a line of dialogue, right? Like it needs to be interpreted. In Ted, when she thinks she's murdered, come and knock on her door. She is self-flagellating. That is a huge breakdown for her, even though he attacked her first, because he had a soul. He had, that I think that the episode Ted is a defining moment in understanding Buffy's code. It's a weirdly important episode in the Pantheon for that reason. Not only that, because then it sets up Faith, it sets up the whole thing. But to greatly oversimplify, I think Buffy's code is the supernatural. She, in being the lawmaker of, or the law enforcement officer of the supernatural world, if they don't come quietly, like lethal force is justified, right? As in the hyena possessed bad guy. There are one or two things like you need to look at a little bit more closely. But when she says we're not killers, I think she specifically means of humans, because she's killed many vampires. So, but again, I don't think that is ever explicit in the text. I think that needs to be parsed out from, yeah. And Tom says in Gingerbread, Buffy asked Giles to find a loophole. Yeah, but again, it's a loophole of this code that is never actually made clear one way or another. So yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Russell. I'm sorry.
And this one, to me, I just find it funny and amusing.
Yeah.
But Anya very early on says something to the like of, oh, a witch at her level can't do this. She's talking about
teleport. Yeah.
But she's implying that a witch at Willow's level is inferior to that of Anya, which is clearly not the case by the end of this episode. I mean, look how quick.
Once she saps Rack, she's at her own level. And that's one of my favorite shots in the episode is as they're having the conversation, the background is turning, but they are static. So the way they shot that was by having them on a platform. It's a wonderful, and again, just as in a very telly episode is a show, don't tell, that things are different now. That she now has power that she didn't when Anya said that line.
I'm reminded of a future episode, which we'll come back to, but it's the one where Anya is the big bad for the episode alone.
Selfless, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And she never once considered that Willow had the power still to stop her. Yeah, I'm always reminded of this episode leading when I watched season 7.
Yeah. I love season 7. Season 7 is... I can't wait till we get into it. I can't wait to hear what y'all have to say about it because I have my issues with it, but I think it's really interesting. But I do need to wrap up and let everyone go. Russell, is there anything else you want to throw out about the episode?
Nothing I wanted to say on stream.
All right.
Just something real quick after stream.
Okay. Well, let me let everyone go who wants to go. Thank you, everyone. In 2 weeks, we're going to be talking Angel. Lady Eternal?
Can I ask a question of the group really quickly?
Sure.
I would hear everybody's answers about that before we end the stream.
Okay.
So in Spike's bits, when the demon he's supposed to fight walks in, he says, here we are now, entertain us. I want to know, does everybody assume he just was like listening to Nirvana? Or was he referencing the fact that song was used in the opening medley in Moulin Rouge, which had come out in June of 2001?
Interesting.
What was he referencing, Moulin Rouge, or was he referencing the actual song?
I mean, Spike
seemed... What do you think?
Go ahead, Emily.
I think he's hoping everyone assumes that he was listening to Nirvana because, punk rocker guy. But I mean, the guy watches Passions. It wouldn't surprise me if he's a big Moulin Rouge guy. So he's like, yeah, no, it's totally Nirvana. While like secretly he's just like singing like the love melody mix as well, just like to himself. Yeah, I love that take.
That's where I land on that one.
I mean,
why can't it be both?
I have to know what does anybody think differently on that one, or are we all pretty much agreeing on that?
No, he's a Moulin Rouge fan.
My initial answer was the Nirvana, but I'm gonna say it's both.
I was going to say Nirvana, but probably he originally Nirvana, but after the musical episode, he got a taste for it, and so he started watching the. But I want to say one little thing.
Go ahead.
I think they should have stopped using the word "bitch" after Bitka.
Yes.
Yeah. Once you do that, it's pretty much used up.
It's the most overused, and it's kind of lazy. I
think that's a
find
wonderful
something
critique.
else to use.
Yeah, it feels. Yeah, I mean, like social politics of the or parable of it aside, it does feel like lazy writing to me. Like
It is.
Yeah.
Just, you know,
Hey.
come on, people.
yeah.
Here's my question about that though, because like I hear what you're saying, and I agree to a certain point, but I don't know what other words they were allowed to use. And if we're
Well,
not going to use bitch in that
Yeah.
situation, what other words can they use within that rating that are
Well,
still going to hit as
Spike's-
hard? Because it's either
Spike's-
it's going to sound lame, or they're going to have to change a rating.
I think Spike's more creative than that. I think Spike, like the king innuendo of season 2, he never uses that word in season 2, and yet he's disgusting. And the innuendo that he layers on top of things, and he's insightful of the characters in a way. He weaponizes his empathy in interesting ways throughout the season. I mean, maybe that's a reading then, is that
King
him-
Effulgent can find a better word.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, what a
Yes.
great way to put it. What a great way to put it.
Yeah.
All right, I need to end the stream. Thank you, everyone on YouTube.
Hold
We'll
on.
see you in Lauren?
Yeah, sorry, I wanted to talk to you afterwards. So just
Yeah, I'm not ending the call. I'm ending the stream.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.